Hello all. I would like to thank you for attending this session. I am Mustafa Al-Hifnawi. I have been working in the healthcare IT for 14 years with a focus on healthcare interoperability and terminologies and code systems, especially in healthcare. I would like to thank you all again, and hopefully it would be a great session for you and to be added value for all of you. So I will start by the title of the presentation, which is Role of Interoperability in Large Enterprises. So let's start by the definition. Let's start by the agenda. First thing, we will introduce interops. What does it mean? Then we will differentiate between different terms we have, like integration, interfacing, interoperability. This is very important to understand what's the difference between all these terms. Then we will go to the interops levels. Then we will talk about the internal and external interops. Then we will go to the purpose of the interops. Then we'll go to the best approach, or how to approach the internal interops and how to approach external interops. Then we will give a brief about the data exchange formats or standards of the healthcare domain, as Cegedim is mainly working in the healthcare domain. And finally, why interops strategy crucial for large interops. So let's start. Interoperability means the ability of computer systems or software to exchange and interpret correctly and make use of information. So the exchange of information is not everything. To interpret the data and the information correctly is very important. And this is mainly what differentiates interops from the term interfacing. The term is inherited initially from the hardware manufacturers. They invented this term to make sure that hardware components are interoperating together. So we introduced the term in the software domain to mimic the same meaning. Okay, this is a definition. We would like just to differentiate between what's integration, what's interfacing, and what is interops or interoperability. Integration is to combine two components into an overall system, or to combine two systems into a larger system. So you have full control over the system or the larger system. Interfacing means to exchange data between two systems without by doing a document information exchange document between the two integrating party, and that's all. Interoperability means the ability of two or more systems to communicate and exchange and interpret correctly and use that information. So the custodian or the owner of every system is different. I'm not the owner of the whole system. So please let me know on the chat form if you have any questions about this definition, so that we can revisit in the Q&A time. We have, for the interops, we have three levels. Technical, which means we are talking with the same transport protocol, like TCP/IP, MLLP, RPCs, web services, SOAP, or RESTful, everything technical. Syntax means, or syntactic, means the data format. HL7 version 2 is it's a specific standard for healthcare. EDI is a group of standards for banking, financials, and a lot of domains. XML, JSON, all of these are formats. Semantics means the right to preserve the right interpretation of exchanged information. This guarantee that everyone understands the same meaning. When I send a certain diagnosis code from one system to another, so I'm sure that the other systems will understand what is that diagnosis, for instance. So these are the interops levels that we need to guarantee within our communication in the ecosystem. Then let's go to what's internal and external interops. If we are interoperating between the applications within the enterprise or within the boundaries of the enterprise, so this is internal. If we are interoperating with other systems, inbound or outbound, like governmental systems or e-commerce, everything related to external, it's external interops. Okay. So why do we need interops? This is a very important question we need to ask. We are not just join the trend. We need to understand why. So we have a limitation of application interfacing. If we go to this diagram that we have point-to-point communication between each and every system, so we will reach the limit. We have a limit here, so we cannot increase the number of systems to a large system. So this could be managed only on a few systems, like 2, 3, 4, up to 5 maybe. And this could work on the micro and small and medium enterprises, which mainly owns 1 or 2 or 3 services. But when in the large enterprises, we have a lot of systems, we have a lot of services, we have a lot of lines of business. So we need to have something better. We need to go for something like this, to have a unified data dictionary between us, which defines the information model that we need to communicate between us. So here, the number of interfaces between the n systems is given by the formula n squared minus n over 2. Linking 2 systems needs 1 interface, but linking 6 systems require 15 interfaces. So reaching a data dictionary is very important to reduce the complexity and to reduce the number of interfaces and to keep everyone on the same page about what is the entity of the patient, what is the entity of the practitioner, what is composed of, what is the data elements, what is optional elements and what's mandatory element. All these defined in the data dictionary. And by the way, HL7 is a universal data dictionary for healthcare domain, but we can create our own. So it's a general data dictionary. So let's define what's data dictionary. Data dictionary is centralized metadata repository for information model. So it lists the objects and the names of the fields and the entities like patient and practitioner. It lists to the data element properties like data types, unique identifiers, cardinality, length, nullability, indexes, and optionality. All this is defined in the properties of the data dictionary. And also what's related to the terminology or value set binding, which is very important to achieve the semantic interops, that every code is understood by everyone. So this is what we call terminology or value set binding. ERD diagram, like designing a data model, and the reference data, and the business rules, such as validation of data quality and schema objects. All this is defined in the data dictionary. So again, the need for data dictionary, we need data dictionary because the high cost of, and the complexity and the cost of maintainability of interface development between every 2 systems, and also the problems and disputes and struggles between vendors. Which one should match the other? It's not my fault, it's your fault. We always hear about these arguments between vendors when interfacing or interoperating. My interface works perfect, check yours. We didn't agree on this value set. Why do you send me this element empty? So all these questions is we can find the answer for them in the data dictionary. So we'll go to the internal interops. What is the best approach to have internal interops between many systems composing the ecosystem of the enterprise? Universal standard or dictionary like HL7 is not suitable. Why? Because it considers every case in the healthcare domain. It's very complicated in terms of business and requirements. So our needs is less. So we don't need to complicate things by going to the universal standard. The dictionary should be simple and sufficient for the organizational needs. Dictionary should be well designed. To be normalized in terms of data elements, not to be repeated everywhere, with simple data transfer objects. That is sufficient, simple but sufficient for the organizational needs. Then we will do external interops. As I said before, external interops means communicating communicating with external players like other businesses, with the government, or with the consumer. So for the B2G, we have governmental healthcare system, governmental insurer, patients and provider registries. If we have any patient registry to validate the social security number or to verify the license of the provider. Also the EHR system, which is the electronic health records that is mostly owned by the government. This is also an example of the B2G. We have also B2B, which is the private, mainly the private sector, private insurance companies, other hospitals, clinics, radiologists, laboratories, pharmacies, and also HIE networks. HIE means Health Information Exchange Networks, which owned by the private, mainly. And also we have B2C, which is the business to consumer, and the consumer of the healthcare system is a patient. So an example of the B2C is a patient portal. For the external interops, we have, this is just an example of the data exchange formats and standards we have. In healthcare domain, we have an organization called HL7. This organization started in 80s of the 20th century and provided the first generation of interops standard, which is called HL7.2. It adopts TCP and MLLP. It's obsolete standards. And then we come to the next, to the second generation, which is HL7 version 3. It started in the late 90s. It adopts SOAP and WSDLs, which was the standard of web services in that period. And finally, we have HL7 Fire, the most modern standard, and it uses also the most modern technology and interoperability standard for now, which is RESTful web services. Now we are close to finish our session, and then we will have a time for questions and answers. Why interops strategy crucial for larger enterprises? Because the number of services, products, and line of businesses is huge. So large enterprises have many departments, use business units, products, services, and these services need to interoperate together to achieve the enterprise offering. The enterprise offering is by interoperating between all these services and lines of business. Large enterprises normally lack the ICT governance due to the scale. So it's not easy for large enterprises to have a good governance that guarantee unified healthcare or information data model. So it's very important to have an interops strategy for large enterprises, especially for micro and small and medium enterprises. It's not needed mainly. In healthcare, it's not optional. Sorry, I would like to correct something. In here for micro, small, and medium enterprises, it's not needed for internal interops, but for sure for external interops, it's needed because it's a matter of compliance with the governmental system. In healthcare, it's not optional for healthcare providers to comply with governmental standards. Why? To get reimbursed. If you didn't comply with how you submit your claims to the insurers and the payer system, you will not get reimbursed. So you have to comply. And one of these compliance issues is to submit your claims in a standard way. Also to be able to connect to the electronic health record, the EHR, and view patient history. This is one goal we need to achieve by complying to the governmental standards. Also, one of the crucial issues we need to achieve to prevent the point-to-point interfaces, that every two systems start to communicate together without any dictionary. This saves cost, reduce complexity, and guarantee delivery of enterprise offerings. Because when you reach a certain number of interfaces within your ecosystem, these interfaces will not be maintainable anymore, and the complexity reaches the maximum. So you need to manage the complexity of the whole ecosystem. And also the most important here is to allow to have aggregate normalized data model on the corporate or enterprise level, which create new revenue streams out of data selling, data mining, and to have access to priceless insights. This is also very important. If I don't have normalized on the corporate level, how can I do business intelligence or to have any insights about my operations? So in a nutshell, this is the importance of interops strategy for large enterprises. And I think I'm done. And I left actually good time for questions and answers. And let's start to see your questions. Actually, I cannot see any questions so far. Is it that clear? Or do you need some time to submit your to the chat? So I wait for a couple of minutes. If anybody has any question. Thanks Minna, Riham. Thanks Ahmed Mabrouk for your feedback. Thank you, Hiba. Okay, so I think as long as everything is clear, so I will end up this session now, and feel free to schedule any one-on-one for today to have any discussion if you'd like. Thank you all for your time.